You can read reports after reports after reports from observers from other countries that are here every single election, seeing everything that happens around elections. And it's the same thing. It just keeps getting worse over time. The more you read these reports, of course, it was bad last time. It's worse this time. It's going to be even worse the next time. You start seeing the cracks when, first things first, there's meant to be a system for how the ballot papers get from the containers to the venues, and everybody's supposed to be there for when it opens, and you can see that it's done transparently. The reason I found out it was open, because I do events all over town, there's people at venues all over town. We just got a message to say, hey, I'm just letting you know the ballot papers arrived and they're all just sitting out on the grass in the open here. And so we race over to take a look, and of course we're shocked. Why are the containers already here? Why are they open?
Welcome to Coffee with Lewa. Real talk, true stories, and PNG over coffee. This is a space for real conversations about the challenges, triumphs, and untold stories of Papua New Guinea. Over a cup of coffee, we speak the truth, share insight, and explore different perspectives on issues that matter. Coffee with Lewa is where dialogue flows freely, voices are heard, and ideas are shared to spark understanding and change. So grab your coffee, because this is going to be an informative session. Let's get right into it. Today, I'm honored to be joined by someone who has been a fearless voice for accountability, civic engagement, and truth-telling, Sylvia Pascoe. She is a former political candidate, a passionate advocate, and a voice many have come to trust when it comes to speaking out on issues that matter. Sylvia, welcome to Coffee with Lewa. It's such a pleasure to have you here with us today. Let's start at the beginning. For those who may not know you well, who is Sylvia Pascoe? What sparked your interest in public service and motivated you to run for political office in the 2022 elections?
Like everybody else, I think we've spent our whole lives kind of being hit by walls in education, in health, in life. Whenever your family faces turmoil, whenever your community faces turmoil, and then now I'm in business facing more turmoil. I'm just an everyday person that is just trying to build a business, look after my family, enjoy my life. But, we're just constantly met with difficulties. And the reason I got into politics is because for me, from a very young age, constantly being met with this idea that I'm not allowed to do things or have things or experience things or have opportunities purely because that's just the way it is. You're in Papua New Guinea, you're a woman, you're young, don't have ambition, don't try. Constantly being met with those barriers for just being who you were born as. From a very young age, I just kind of learned, okay, if that's what everyone's going to tell me I can't have, well, I'm just going to do it anyway. And, from a very young age, I just kept going out there, doing whatever I felt like doing, even if everyone kept saying, you're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to have that. You're not allowed to experience that. And so to keep doing that my whole life and then come to adulthood where I thought, I'm free from the shackles of school structures and everything. Now I can experience everything and do everything I want to because I'm an adult. And then just to be slammed by life over and over again saying, no, you can't, I think it's just led me down this path of, okay, well, then I'll have to keep battling and I'll have to keep pushing. And every time somebody says you're not allowed to have that because, I'll go, okay, well, I'll be the first to do it and I'm sure it'll work out, and what's the worst that could happen? I fail. I go back to the starting boards. I've always constantly been doing that. And then, as soon as I've had a little bit of success in my life, I thought, well, now I want to give back. Giving back became volunteering or helping people or doing any little thing. It's like opening a can of worms here. All those same problems that you grew up thinking it was just you or it was just your family or it was just your neighborhood. Suddenly you're hit by the fact that it's almost every single household in every single neighborhood around the country. And as much as you can keep volunteering and plugging the holes in all of these broken systems, unless something's fixed from the top, it's just going to keep leaking. And so I think it's just that. I've done everything I can on a personal level. I've done everything I can on a business level. I've done everything I can on a voluntary level. And then I had my daughter and I kept thinking, is she going to go through everything I went through? Is it going to be worse? Is it going to be better? What is the absolute most I can do to fix this situation? And the absolute most you can do is get a seat in that house and create the laws and the policies that govern this country to fix it. So that's me in a nutshell. Honestly speaking, I am just somebody who's trying to survive, trying to thrive, trying to enjoy my life while I'm at it. And I constantly keep getting told no. So I'm going to keep pushing until things go the way they should.
I really admire that because, like you said, I think our generation has been the most hard hit. And I say that because my parents had a lot of opportunities in their time. You know, they were sent abroad, all government funded. They were brought back and they were really given a foothold to leap off of. So I really admire that about you still here today doing what you're doing. And it takes courage and boldness to run for the elections. And like you said, the way change happens is to have a seat in that house. So I commend you for that.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on now. Let's talk about the 2022 election campaign. What were some of the biggest challenges you faced, especially around the electoral integrity and transparency?
I will say that a lot of people, before I went into it, everyone just told me, don't do it. You have no hope. Again, all the same reasons. I got told NCD seat is a man seat. That I heard over and over again. Don't do it unless you've got 10 million in your back pocket. It was just constantly met with that. You're not right for the seat. And again, for me, it's water off a duck's back. I've been hearing that my whole life. So that didn't scare me. That doesn't bother me at all. Then there was threats. If you go to certain settlements and you go to certain neighborhoods, the worst is going to happen to you. I got that a fair bit. I didn't feel uncomfortable because I felt like the majority of the things that I volunteered with over time and the majority of projects I've started myself, I know people in every neighborhood. So I've been to most neighborhoods, despite what people might have thought. So I didn't feel uncomfortable going anywhere during campaigns. Now, campaigns, I really enjoyed it. Again, I felt like I got to go absolutely everywhere in the city and talk to people and spend time with them, which I enjoy immensely, even if it's hearing what hardships they're going through, what difficulties they're facing. I already knew it, but I think sitting there and having long conversations about it with people, groups of people in all corners of the city, it just strengthens your resolve for why you're doing this and why it's important to do it. A lot of people have been let down with the same false promises their whole lives that we all know because we've all heard it our whole lives. It's the same thing in every neighborhood. Generally, everywhere you go in our city, everyone's the same. Everyone's just trying to get by. Everyone's just trying to do their best. Sometimes their best, is an opportunity that is not great, but people do what they do to survive and try to thrive. The parts that bothered me was the electoral system is a complete mess. And you don't have to go just by what I'm saying. You can read reports after reports after reports from observers from other countries that are here every single election, seeing everything that happens around elections. And it's the same thing. It just keeps getting worse over time. The more you read these reports, of course, it was bad last time. It's worse this time. It's going to be even worse the next time. You start seeing the cracks when, first things first, there's meant to be a system for how the ballot papers get from the containers to the venues, and everybody's supposed to be there for when it opens, and you can see that it's done transparently. And the reason I found out it was open, because I do events all over town, there's people at venues all over town. We just got a message to say, hey, I'm just letting you know the ballot papers arrived and they're all just sitting out on the grass in the open here. And so we race over to take a look. And of course, we're shocked. Why are the containers already here? Why are they open? Why did they not get delivered in the electoral vehicles that was transparently spoken about?
Hi, friends, and welcome back to the channel. If you know me, you know one thing for sure. Coffee is one of my true passions in life. That's actually one of the reasons why we named this show Coffee with Lewa, because coffee is more than a drink to us. It's culture, it's community, it's connection, and it's an opportunity. Today, we want to speak directly to our amazing coffee farmers and cooperatives across Papua New Guinea and the Pacific. If you're growing coffee, processing coffee, or part of a cooperative, and you're looking to enter new markets, expand your reach, and connect your beans to the world, we want to hear from you. There's a demand for high quality coffee like yours now more than ever. Whether you're in the Highlands, Sipic, Central, or the islands and beyond, if you're producing beautiful coffee and want to grow your impact, please reach out. You can contact us directly at info@coffeewithlewa.com. That's info@coffeewithlewa.com, and it's on the screen right now. Let's talk about how we can bring your coffee to new audiences, new buyers, and new possibilities. Together, we can put Papua New Guinea's coffee on more shelves, in more cafes, and in more hearts around the world. Stay blessed, stay bold, and stay with us for more on Coffee with Lewa.
Ballot papers to turn up under strange circumstances and then to just be left out in the open on a field where literally there was no police, there was no security, there was nothing, and I didn't want it to look like I'm the only person that knew this, so I let every other candidate and every other election person I knew know straight away. And everyone turned up and we all had the same questions. Why is this already open? Show us that those papers haven't been tampered with, and it was literally the way that the officers turned up and tried to dismiss it all and then didn't even show you like the numbers. So we could say, well, look, those papers were already open. Clearly somebody has touched them and broken the seals. They should be discounted. They just should not be used. And the fact that they refused to do anything about that, they're like, no, it's okay. It's all right. This happens. Let's just move on with it. Everyone argued. Everyone complained. So it was literally from that moment onwards, I thought, okay, this is the really hard system fact when you can see right in front of your eyes that it's wrong. And here is a whole group of people saying we all see it's wrong. And then the system, the people that are running the system say, nothing to see here. Let's just pretend like it's okay. And then it was literally almost a daily thing, finding something that was wrong, pointing out that it was wrong, and then getting told, it's okay, this stuff happens, let's just let it go. And then when it came to hiring the counting officials and the polling officials, and you would have seen Diane Unagi, I had left the stadium that afternoon and they had said, oh, they're bringing in people. They're bringing in the people that were hired to be the polling officials and counting officials. And they have all these documents, it's their resumes, it's their CVs, all of this. And Diane will tell you at some ridiculous hour in the middle of the night, they walked out to the gate where there's a street full of people that are just hanging around and they just started calling names. So they're just like, hey, John Smith. And some guy in the crowd's like, yep, that's me. I'm John Smith. And he walks in the gate and he's inside. And that's how your polling officials and counting officials and everyone was chosen. And this was the night before polling started. So imagine people have been standing out in the street. Then they bring them in at midnight. Then they run maybe a couple of hours of training in the dead of the night. And then they put them on buses and they have to head out to polling stations at, I think they left at around 5, 6 a.m. or something. No one's been fed. No one's been properly trained. So you got hungry, tired people that haven't slept all night and they're supposed to be manning the stations for our biggest decision for where our lives are going for the next 5 years. And then, I thought, okay, well, let's go to our polling stations. Everyone go to your polling stations, have your vote. Let me know how it was. And our polling station where I went to vote, it's a school, it's a nice neighborhood. And I've voted every single election since I was 18. So I've been through this so many times and I've never had a problem. I go by myself, I'll do my vote, I'll stand in the lines, never had a problem. But you've seen year after year, election after election, it does get a bit more rough. I will say that. And there's always the same problem. There's always people standing there that say, my name's not on the list. I don't understand. And again, the same thing that we get told when we question things. There's nothing to see here. That's just the way it is. Sorry to us, And so then the polling happened. And at our station, we'd kind of gotten ourselves into lines. Even though people had gotten there 5, 6 a.m., the actual polling booths didn't open until midday. And so I already thought to myself, okay, there's so many people that are going to miss out because not everyone is going to wait around all day. And then some people have to get out of here. You have to go back to work. You have to pick up your kids from school, things like that. We had put ourselves into lines. We said, okay, look, let's have the seniors in our group have a line to themselves so they're not going to worry. Women, so you don't have to worry about people touching you or whatever, and men on this side. And it was like clockwork. As soon as the gates were about to open, these buses turned up, packed full of people that jumped out of the bus, started making noise, hollering and hooting, and started pushing against, physically trying to push everyone away from the gate. And, they picked the wrong crowd because you got me and half the people I know and people from my street that just pushed back. But it was almost like a dogfight just to get in, and then it was just madness. When I went to vote again, you've got people that are not trained, that maybe don't even know the laws or can't remember it from the night before. And we go to vote and straight away, they dye the wrong finger. And I'm like, no, you got to dye the right finger. Don't do it the wrong way. And they're like, oh, it's okay. I'm like, no, it's not. So I'm arguing over you have to do it the right way. And then we go and the list, I go looking for my name. I find my name. They go and they cross off a different name. And I was like, that's not my name. And they're like, yeah, but it's just easier for us to track if we just cross them off the top of the list. So they're just crossing off any name from the top down because it's easier to count numbers that way, not, yes, that's the person. I'm having
This is
another
NCDC.
argument. Yeah.
Sorry, this
And
is
this
NCDC. Could you imagine what's happening in the rural areas?
And then we go to vote, and somebody who is ahead of me comes back and he says, "Oh, I've made a mistake on my paper. Can I just have another one?" So he walks over and they said, "Sure." And I was like, "You can't do that. There's enough papers to cover everyone who's entitled to vote. If you've screwed up your paper, you can't take somebody else's opportunity. You can't take somebody else's piece of paper." So another argument. So it was madness. And then I come out of that counting station and I check around with everyone else, and it's same or worse reports from other places. And there were a lot of places that didn't get their boxes at all. That NCD had its first election related death. Somebody was shot. And I don't even know what the result of that is now, that you leave a baby motherless, and that area they were in is a settlement area, that kid's going to have a tough life. What is the results of that? Is there compensation? Is that child going to at least be able to afford to be looked after well? But that also means that every woman carrying a child or who is pregnant is going to be less likely to vote in the next one, because now that they've seen they can be shot and that their life can go unanswered for, no justice delivered. So you're going to have less women especially wanting to go and vote. And then again, because it was done on one day, you've got neighborhoods where people are making the decision, especially women, who's going to stay home and look after the kids and the houses and everything in our neighborhood, or even just go and make sales today so that we can eat today, and who gets to vote. So people are literally making the choice, okay, you're going to go and get your vote while we stay here and look after everything else. So one day voting, it doesn't work. Not if you want a real result. So anyway, there's all of those issues. I was already feeling like, oh my God, this is going to be a massive problem when we get to counting. And then after all of that chaos, gosh, the counting, especially for NCD, it took 2 months, which is, I think, for something to go that long, it should have been declared failed, to be honest. That was just the fact that it went on too long and had so many problems says so much about the results, I think. Now, anybody who was in that room, the counting rooms, I think they should be 100% investigated to extremes, because there was so much stop start not working. I mean, in our counting rooms, they literally took the doors off the hinges in the toilets because they found people were sneaking in things and exchanging in the toilets. So they had to take the doors off the toilets, so everything is open. And I will say that we had such a great group of people to start with. The first couple of weeks in NCD, the police especially, they're not overstepping their mark, but they called out everything that was wrong. You can't have certain people's scrutineers touching boxes. You can't have people doing things in the dark. You can't have, certain rules are, you can't have a pen on the counting table while counting is taken. Like, that's just a rule. No pens while there's live ballots on the table. If somebody called it out, what happened? It was just like chaos went on. And anytime we went to complain about something, that this is not right, this is not okay, we met with the same old line, take it to court. And, we noticed, again, police kept getting changed over, moved out, different groups came in, people run things differently. I started with 26 scrutineers. So we had them on timetables so that they could get rests in between and all of that. And we finished with 4. I took them to hospital on certain occasions from being assaulted. So 3 times we'd visited hospitals with our people. And once I had to go looking for another candidate's scrutineer who my team witnessed getting assaulted. Well, everyone in that room witnessed her getting assaulted. I really had to go looking for her because I just couldn't stop wondering what happened to her. She was okay, but she was absolutely traumatized. Yeah, so it was one thing after another, and then constantly being told, just take it to court. And again, I do events for a living. The fact that they couldn't get CCTV or live streaming working in a counting room in NCD, in the capital of the city, but they could get it working out in rural PNG in some areas. They could get it working at Waigani, but not here. I couldn't understand it. And I remember the RO standing at the gate telling me that it's too difficult, the technology is too difficult, it just can't happen. I said, that's impossible. I do it daily for work. I said, if you need the gear, I'll tell my team to come bring the gear. They can set it up in an hour, just give them some time. But they refused. The office that they said was paid to do the CCTV installation at all of these counting rooms here, I drove around to check out their office as well, just to see for myself why they couldn't get CCTV working. It was an empty office. So I was, curious if nobody is in their office, and why are we paying them? I mean, I've got a lot of questions. They didn't get the CCTV working. So again, it was problem after problem. The counting room was an absolute nightmare. And then when it came down to, they stopped counting completely before they started counting the twos. And, it was how many weeks of nothing. I did also question, and I think I put everything on my Facebook page. I tried keeping people informed. They have two sets of groups that do the counting, right? You have your daytime counting and you have your nighttime counting. Daytime counting people never counted. They would, for some reason, go, nothing's happening. And then for some reason, just when the night crew comes in, okay, we'll count at night. But then they wouldn't count until they'd sit there for how long? They'd start counting at 11 o'clock, 12 midnight, they'll break for lunch. They'll have like a 2-hour dinner or whatever it was. And then they'll count for another hour and go, oh, we're too tired. Let's close up and go to sleep. So it just dragged on forever. And then, which I think, again, is such a failure to the people. The people deserve answers for all of this, and they deserve an election result quickly. But yeah, they just dragged it on. And then I got pulled down to the police station how many times? Why are you posting this? This is making people look bad. I said, I'm not posting anything to make people look bad. I'm just stating what's happening. If it looks bad and people feel like it looks bad, maybe they should stop doing it. But it was conversations like that all the time. And it really drove me to wits end. And so when they finally started counting for the last 2 weeks, counting room, again, people need to interview counting officials. People need to hold them all accountable for what they've done or not done or turned a blind eye to. But yeah, it was just absolute chaos. In my opinion, we already have human resource that we can trust, and that would be the teachers network. Every single year, all the teachers around the country are pulled together. They have a system that works. They put them up in accommodation. They spend a couple of weeks counting, marking all the papers and everything from around the country. That works. Now, we trust teachers. We trust that system. We know that works. Why are we calling people in the middle of the night off the street to do this? Why aren't we going, let's use a system that works. Let's go to this teachers network, say, look, you know what? Pay them a bit extra or something like that. Just go, this is going to be your job. I trust teachers. My mom was a teacher, so I see how hard teachers work. Get them in. Let them be the counting officials. Let them do this. I think we all trust the fact that they are educated. They understand how process works. They do it all the time for counting papers. Rather than reinventing the wheel and calling people in the middle of the night off the street, I think that we need to be relying on systems that do work. Put that out to a few people already. We should be using the teachers network to do the job of counting.
I'm actually blown away by everything you shared. And I think the audience will be too, because we don't know this unless we are obviously on ground witnessing this, or if you're going to vote, like you said. And again, it depends where you vote. But one thing I did notice was your Facebook page was a place for information for a lot of people. And I went to your Facebook page to find out how the counting was going in NCD, because of course, everything we do is affected by what happens in NCD. If you run a business or, you live in Port Moresby, that seat is so important. When I was watching your videos or as you were relaying information, I was horrified. I couldn't believe, even going down to the police station, everything ends with go to court, go to court. We all know what happens when they say go to court. It's just a never ending destructive cycle of waiting for a decision to be handed down. And I think that's a tactic, right? They want you to go to court because when you go there, I mean, who has the resources to keep paying lawyers over and over again
I
for
went
all
into
these things?
I went into the elections literally with what was in my back pocket. People's Party funded me a bit, but I was a late entry. It wasn't something that I have spent my whole life gearing up for. Running for politics was, it's kind of a last straw to fix problems. It was not something that I was intending to do. So People's Party didn't have that much time to consider me in all their fundraisings and all of that, but I know they supported me as best they could. Every other thing that I did came out of my back pocket or was from my SME friends, and I would literally go to neighborhoods where people would give me 500 kina. They'd collect their coins and cash and just be like, here's what we can contribute to help you keep going. At one point, some market mamas got together. They gave me 5,000. All of that, I don't want people to reach into their back pocket. I don't want them to stress. But after I had burnt through almost everything I had in my back pocket, I was like, thank goodness. Thank goodness people cared enough to give me this. And I had people printing posters and banners for free, people printing bumper stickers for me, just giving me whatever they could to say, well, this is what my little business does, so I'm going to support you with this. That all really helped. And the counting room, those last The last month, I would say, I was completely burnt out. And because of where it was at that time, and everyone in town had had enough of hearing about elections, I couldn't really go to people to ask them for anything to help anymore. One of my friends and his mom, he was like, what can I do to help? And I was like, can you cook for my team? Because I literally have nothing left to feed everyone. So our counting officials, it was literally my friend and his mom cooking our team food every day to keep us going because I had nothing left. And our team is the kind of team that, like, if they see other people in that counting room that haven't been getting food or eating, even if they're on other teams, they shared. So, we really found that race to the finish line difficult. But then when we were met with that, okay, take it to court, I was like, with what? I literally have nothing. I can go and beg people help me for free and be my lawyer, but then I don't know how long that will take. Like, as an example, Michael Candu, who also ran for NCD, he took it to court. They're still in court. Still in court. And I'm wondering why it takes so long, because the mountain of evidence that he has, it's literally like a case file this thick, and they've pulled most things out and said, no, we're not going to talk about this. I think it's down to like three items now. But the thing that I'm stressing about is that with the evidence that he's got, with what he's put to the courts, why is it taking so long? Either you agree that it's illegal, or you don't see it's got a case. And the fact that it's still sitting there how many years later, why is NCD of all places the one that's still dragging along? It makes no sense. So, and then they switched it up, so we had to go to lay almost every time there was a hearing. I don't know, it's insanely difficult. So taking it to court, there's got to be a way that they can fast track things so that when it comes to elections, which is the most important say that people have in their entire lives in our country, they have a system ready to fast track getting results for anything. When somebody says, hey, that looks illegal to me, even on the spot, there should be some system to go, let's sort it out now. Because if it is illegal, then you are giving people the wrong result. And that's not fair to them or their votes or to their entire future and their children's future. That to me is so important. But I don't know, maybe we've just been so put through the ringer that people don't have the energy to fight it anymore. I'm not sure. But I'm still fighting it.
Well, we need people like you because you're right. I think everyone's just tired, maybe. And also you lose a bit of hope when things don't come to a resolve. Like you're saying, if a court case has been sitting there for 5 years, I mean, what have you got left? To keep following it up, okay, at least it's still there. But to follow it up and to have your lawyer do a little bit more costs money. People just are so used to this cycle that it's almost like a David Goliath situation. How do we and where do we and what do we do? Were there any specific moments where you witnessed or your campaign team witnessed corruption, head on? I know you went to specific detail just now about all the things with the administration to do with the counting and of course voting and the polls. How did that affect both your campaign and your perspective on the electoral system?
I'm not in the counting room myself. Candidates aren't. So when I say I saw it, it's from my team, and it's also from other candidates, scrutineers coming out and, all together saying this just happened and la 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 la. For a certain time there, they were getting photos and videos, and then we were told that you're not allowed to film within the venues. So I was talking about that girl that got assaulted. So my team was so, unsure what they could do, and one of them just videoed it while telling them, I'm just letting you know, I'm videoing this. Our candidate has told us we must video these things. His phone got completely smashed. And so, to say, it's hard for me to talk about things that I now, when they take it away from you and they smash things, you don't have the evidence to back up. You've got what people can say, but also how can I put them through the same system that did that in their face and then tell them that they will get justice if they put their names on paper and their faces to something. And it's a really difficult ask to put people in that position. So I don't blame people for being uncomfortable to write their statements and take things further. So to say, did I witness things? Yes, we all witnessed a lot of things, but how do we take that further? It's hard to do that. Really difficult when they smash the evidence. And there were videos and things, I will say, that myself and other candidates and their team members did give to the Electoral Commission and police. And some of it is in court at the moment, and some of it is, I don't know why it's not being
Lost. Is it
used.
lost?
But
Is it lost?
Let's say,
Okay. All right, audience. If you think the evidence is lost, put it in the comments section
you know,
and let's get that conversation going.
this is the thing. It feels quite lonesome because I can do as much as I can do, but the general public, everyone knows. Like, it is not a secret. And this is the thing that I think I found so difficult, is that you've got these rooms where you've got like at least 1,000 witnesses, and they can, if they wanted to, do something about it. And, the fact that they don't, I think that's the part that hurts the most. I get that people, they need certain things, but the idea that you are willing to sacrifice your life and your children's lives and your grandchildren's lives, the next generation, for just these couple of weeks, that part I think was really soul crushing for me. I think I came out of it just thinking, how is it possible? Like, I knew that we were going to face problems. I didn't picture that a room full of people can be witnesses to something and just say it's too hard for us to do anything about. I didn't picture that. And I think that's what hurt so much.
I'm really, really sorry that was your experience, because I wanted to go further into that. As a woman stepping into that political arena, how did that environment impact you during it and after the elections? How has that impacted you personally? Obviously, as a political candidate, people look to you. They look to you for hope. You're someone who has quite a large following that people come to when they need answers. So how did that entire experience impact you?
What I hate is, I think it's especially the educated masses, the middle class. I understand that they feel that they have the most to lose, so they tend to not get involved in the everyday battles. But the people that lose out the most are those that literally can't get a step into the workforce. And that's the majority of Papua New Guineans everywhere. Unless the middle class raises their voices, unless the middle class does something to push the system to do right by everyone, those that can't even get a decent paying job or a job at all, or can't even afford to eat every day, I would be honest with you, that's the reality. They're forever going to be struggling. And if they're struggling that bad now, just imagine how bad their kids are going to have it. One example I used when I was going around neighborhoods, and this is just from what I see, and I know because I know people in these neighborhoods. We've had the conversations before. So I already know enough about them that when we went there, it was easy for me to talk about these things. The example I kept using is that your mother carried those buckets of water to where you are every day. And then you inherited that lifestyle. You are now carrying those buckets of water. Your back is hurting, your legs are, and at some point it's going to be shot. That's what we're handing down generation to generation, most places around in the city. So how do you ever get out of that situation if nothing ever changes for you? And then we have this one moment every single election time, every 5 years, that you go, I can change this. And then it gets taken from you. That is soul crushing. I mean, for a season there, what I hated was, like, you can't unsee it. Every time I drive around the city, I still see it now. I can't ignore what I know people are going to keep suffering through, knowing that so many of them did take a chance. They went to vote. They voted for change, and they didn't get that. It bothers me so much, because when I see them saying I can't get medicine, or my school classroom is falling apart, my kids are dying of things they shouldn't die of, an ear infection, a toothache, appendicitis, things that can be fixed, but because people don't have the space in their day between carrying buckets of water everywhere to go and get a little bit of medicine, and when they get there, sometimes they have to wait in lines, they miss out, or they don't get it all because it's not there, literally results in death. And then every 5 years, there's this chaos. You can't even just have a say. It's so hard to unsee it. And everywhere I go, it really bothers me, because it shouldn't be this way. They don't deserve it. People are constantly like, oh, well, you voted for it, so you get what you vote for. Personally, I don't think the people voted that way, so I don't think it's fair to put it on them. I feel like the system let them down, and their lives are affected for it forever. And I know that. Anyone who's in that counting room knows that. And that's the depressing part. The people don't really understand.
You're watching Coffee with Lewa. If you're enjoying this session, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and of course, share this video with your friends and your family. And let's take this conversation to the comments. Let us know your thoughts below.
That their voice is taken away from them. Their opportunity to a better life is taken away from them. That part I can't unsee it, and that part bothers me so much.
That perspective is the truth. That's soul crushing, as you said, because we only get that democratic power every 5 years. It comes once every 5 years. So whatever happens in that period of time determines what your life is going to be like for the next 5 years, but worse, the impact for your children. We're going to move on now. What kind of reforms do you think we need to truly support more women entering politics, if you are of the opinion that we need more women entering politics?
We have a lot of great women that are contesting the elections. I think they actually do have a lot of support. But then, I mean, it wasn't just my seat. Afterwards, the US Embassy organized a get together. So all the female candidates that could make it from around the country got together. We all talked about things. Hearing what people went through around the country, again, it just spelled out to me that women can win these seats. Women can win these seats, and they have got the support of their communities, but the system is letting them down. So strengthening the electoral system is the most important part of it. And that goes hand in hand with education, that goes hand in hand with law enforcement. Our police have said over and over and over and over again, they are under-resourced and overwhelmed, and they are so important to our everyday life, security, safety, investigating things and getting justice for us every day. They should be much better resourced, and the laws are there. We don't really need to keep inventing new laws or changing things too much. We just need to strengthen them, give it the proper funding it needs. I mean, even the Electoral Commission has said over and over again, they are underfunded. We can't even run a national census the right way. You know how they ran the census? This guy came to our gate a while back. I didn't see any tablets or anything, but he came and said, "Oh, I'm from we're doing the census, blah, blah, blah. How many people live here?" And that's it. Do you need any more details? No. Do you need to know where we're from, what we do, our age group, whether we're all female, male? No, that's enough. And he just takes off. I messaged a few people. I said, are they going to come back around? Surely there's like forms we fill out or something. No, that's it. We've not seen anybody since. So the fact that we don't have, and again, this is in all the reports that you can find online. Electoral Commission is supposed to also have them on their webpage and that, but these reports from observers to say that we're working off the wrong data, names and people in different areas. So we're already working on the wrong data. And then we don't have the resources for police to do their jobs to the best of their abilities, free and fair, to ensure that we get the results that are deserved. Electoral Commission doesn't have the funding it needs to run it the best way that's possible. So to get more women in power, numbers of people that are contesting, I would much prefer to go to an election and go to that ballot paper and see a lot more women's names down as an option. So when we need more women candidates contesting, but beyond that, in a lot of places, they will have the support. I mean, I saw quite a few of these ladies that I met. I think they did have the support, but the system let them down. The votes that they should have had counted were not counted, or their boxes were burnt, things like that. I mean, I know in some places people just took boxes. So if their votes don't get counted at all, what chance do they have? I think we need to get over that hurdle first. I think a lot of people do want women in politics, general population out there doing the voting. I think they do want to see more women in power, but we just need to strengthen the systems to get them there. And perhaps, again, if people have again and again and again failed in their duties, we need to be replacing them with people that can do those jobs. And if it is a case of we can't find people in this country to do those jobs, there's organizations out there, IFES, different election organizations, the UN and that we could be going to and saying, look, we are having a difficult time running this. Can you help us with it? I think most of us would be fine with that. Got to do something different, right? They're not allowed to interfere. They're not allowed to do anything about it, but they write these reports. And these reports, again, you should find it on the Electoral Commission website, but they're online anyway. You can find them. All of these reports from internal observers and the external observers from organizations, really from around the globe. The majority of them from the ones that I've seen from like 2004, I think it was, from then onwards, they pretty much say the same thing over and over again. We're using bad data. There's a lot of violence taking place, votes not being counted properly. Polling is an issue. The counting room's an issue. Security is an issue. Women don't get the chance to vote because of all of these. It's the same things in these reports over and over again. The only difference is it gets worse every single time. We do have observers. We have organizations there, but they can't interfere. They can just give us the information, and our government is supposed to do something with with that. They're supposed to say, oh, okay, we've seen that everyone's saying that this is a problem. Let's do something about it. And here we set up the Electoral Reform Committee, which Alan Bird was spearheading. I did follow that for a while. But again, they gave people that were observers, they delivered their reports to that committee and they had that conversation very openly. So I would say that everyone is aware, everyone knows what the problems are, and if they want to fix it, they absolutely can.
I want to move on now to governance and accountability. You've been very outspoken about the need for stronger governance and accountability in Papua New Guinea. From your perspective, what are the most urgent reforms we need to take seriously if we're going to tackle corruption? Because that's a very big topic swarming a lot of silent conversations that are not brought out in public. And I wanted to ask you specifically what you think about how we can tackle corruption.
Strengthening the police force is the best way to do that. How do we protect our people better? Again, if we have a strong, free police force, we would be able to do that. We see people put into jobs and they're in positions where they are creating reform, they are setting down a path that I personally think would fix things if given the chance to come to fruition. But then they're so often moved out of those roles, and in some cases people are fired. Quite a lot of times people are fired. So whether that's in the police force, that's also within certain government departments, you see the people that do speak out and do something about what they know is wrong often become victims. They lose their jobs, they get sidelined. Some of them are paid on like eternal leave. They're paid to just stay away from everything. If we strengthen our law and order, we'll be able to get on top of these things. But that also comes with so many things. People deserve decent pay. They deserve a good place to live. They deserve all of that security in order for them to feel safe enough to be able to do their jobs freely and fairly. Right now, we don't have that system in place. So it's not even going to be one thing, to be honest, Lewa. It's also education. My cousin sister, she teaches at a school and she's teaching 4, 5, 6-year-olds, the early learning ages. They have no resources. Their roof is leaking. Parents are constantly trying to patch up and fix up things. I'm always helping her with whatever I can for the kids' sake. But you walk around some of these schools and you go, we get these kids to come and stand out here and they sing the national anthem and they say the pledge and we tell them you're the future leaders of this country. And then we literally ask them to learn outdated materials, really struggling through the worst conditions. In some of these classrooms, there are farms with better conditions for chickens and pigs than we are giving to our kids. The first time I went to check on her at her school, I just wanted to see how she's settling. It's her first job. I walked through her classroom and I was already like, no, this is not good enough for a child at any age. And then I made the mistake of going to check where they play, which is like with a nice big rubbish pile that's usually being burnt a couple of times a day. This is their play area. And then their toilets, this dilapidated building with holes through the walls. And because they're babies, babies need help. At that age, they still need help going to the bathroom. So there is feces and everything everywhere. There's no toilet paper. Again, there's no opportunity to at least feel human in this situation. There's holes in the walls. Anyone could be looking at you as a child, and you get brought up being shown that this is what your life is worth. This is what is normal. This is what is okay and acceptable for you. And then we tell them you're going to be the future hope for this country. Education and what we're putting people through from a very young age is training them to just accept the worst of the worst. So when we come out as adults, how do they get out of that frame of mind? Oh yeah, there's so many. The education needs a big step up, but law and order is the key, I believe, to fixing everything. And just the basics. I'm a small business owner. I constantly tell people you don't have to wait for the government to tell you to not pay minimum wage. Just be a decent human, realize that people can't survive on that much a day and go, how much are you making? Balance it. Pass it on to the customers if you have to. And I have had those conversations with customers that say, why is this so expensive? And then I literally have no problem breaking it down. Here's our rent. Here's storage spaces. Here's what it costs to import things. Here's all the extra taxes we have to pay. And then on top of that, I like my staff to at least be able to afford to live in decent areas. I want them to know that their kids can go to a good school. I don't want them them to suffer through this. We've got their medicals to pay, all of that. We provide all of that. And I feel like as a small business owner, if I can do it, you can make those tough decisions to do that, especially when you are constantly posting as big businesses in this country, the millions and millions you're making out of PNG, how much you're making. Just cut $1 million and go, let's put that into our staff. Let's make sure they've all got a nice roof over their head. Let's make sure all their kids get a good education. Let's do that for them, It's everyday things plus fixing the systems.
You touched on this earlier about education and, of course, strengthening a few of our reforms already there. How can civil society and at the community level especially help promote transparency and hold our leaders accountable?
Yeah. Okay. You can do this in your everyday, because let's just face it, half the people that are, again, it's so ingrained in us, right? Again, from a very young age, everyone is being told this is the way things are done. There's people that are getting an education, leaving, and the first thing they're thinking is, how can I rip the system? How can I join those other people and rip the system and get rich fast and just take whatever I can? And then there's all the people that sit around them, that talk to them every day, that deal with them all the time, and you do nothing about it. You can say no. You can say no. You can say, I'm going to do it differently. I'm going to tell the teacher that never goes in to actually teach her class, I'm going to tell him or her, you better get your ass over to that school right now. And if you don't, I'm going to report it. You can say, look, the water's not working. I know the people that work there. I'm going to make it my business to remind them constantly. They need to do their job. I see other people like Stephen Kalaga. He goes and takes a video every time he sees people patching up the roads wrong. That's everyday thing. Anybody can do that. You can hold people accountable in your everyday life. And if everyone is being held accountable at some level, at every level, in your church as well, because we all know even some of these churches are not doing things right by their congregation. If everyone is holding everyone accountable at every level, that's how democracy works. That's how the system's supposed to be strengthened. And you talk about reforms, like you do, like, I don't know what happened or where things changed exactly, but you can't have politicians meddling in the everyday decisions of department heads running their departments. That line has been crossed so much. I mean, when I was little, it was almost like it made the news if a minister called a department head after hours on the phone. That made the news because that's unheard of. You can't call somebody after hours. You can't take them from their house in the middle of the night. You can't do that. You can't be whining and dining with them. You can't be traveling to places and sitting in a casino all the time. And, hold people accountable. Have those conversations. And if it's somebody in your home, then, find a way to normalize the fact that you've got to have those conversations with them. Can you do better? Can you do better? Can you be better? What I worry about is that a lot of people are they're so tired and they're at the point of not caring that they don't want to do better. Let me just take what I can for now, and whatever it is what it is. And that's, again, good parents, having more women in positions of power. We think beyond today because we're constantly worried about what we're leaving our kids with and the situation we're leaving them in. So we do go the extra mile so that we can leave things better for our kids. But everyone needs to do that in their everyday life. Everything. You see something's not right at the marketplace, have a conversation about it. Call it out. Report it if you have to. People don't like reporting things either. Report it. Follow it up. Yeah. If that doesn't get a result, write to your member, write to your ward councillor, have the conversations. If that goes nowhere, go to the media, say, here's this thing we've reported 1 million times. Here's all the steps we've taken. It hasn't been done. Just keep doing it. I know it's tedious, it's difficult, but what other thing can we do? Nothing?
And now with social media, you can take it there. Yeah. Right? Every one of us nowadays, even in rural, you have a phone, you have access to Facebook, and that's the only way our voices can be heard.
That's the thing that, people think I'm really good with social media, but I'm not really. When we did campaigns, the people in my team, they took videos in some places we went of me just in election mode, I suppose. But they uploaded those videos on YouTube and Facebook and things like that. And I just thought, okay, if it gets a few more views, that's great. I was really blown away. Like, we checked some of those figures halfway through, and you'd get like 500,000 to 1 million views every week on certain videos. And that blew my mind. And then somebody said, are you boosting your posts? And I did not know how to do that with my page at the time, but I go and I have a look. And I don't know why I couldn't boost posts at that time. It declined boosting anything. And so all those millions and millions of views, that was all just generic. And then I went and I checked other people's pages, and I noticed a lot of their adverts, their promotional stuff, it had the little thing that they boosted their posts for that. And so I felt very confused why I wasn't allowed to boost anything, but every other candidate seemed to be able to boost their post. That kind of, I thought to myself, imagine if I could boost it. You know, you'd go from those millions of views to goodness knows how big of views. And what I loved about that is that campaign time, as much as we tried to, we didn't get to step foot in every single neighborhood we wanted to. We really tried, but we didn't make it every single spot. But people sent messages to our pages, and sometimes I'd read them where they're like, I am putting this message from your page on loudspeaker and I play it every single night to my neighborhood. So I just thought, okay, as long as people heard, that's the message, that's what I need. So we didn't physically get to make it there, but at least people know, that at least they heard it. So social media it blew my mind. And so afterwards, people are like, you have to keep posting and you have to keep doing that. And I was like, I don't know. This is a career. I think people, you do this all day, every day. It takes a lot of effort. I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to sit here and record talking about things all the time and posting it. I try. And my daughter, she loves all the TikTok challenges. I'm not posting those, but yeah, I don't know how to do it as well as I should. So I am looking for people that want to come on the campaign trail and do more of that in the next one for 27, because I can't get my head around it.
You are running for 2027.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is not even on our script. You are running for 2027.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic. Congratulations. I think the audience will be very pleased to hear that. And we will link your social media in the description. So audience, you can go ahead and go and check out her page and check out what she stands for and follow her journey there, because I think it's important for us to get this information out there. Like you said, to get 500,000 organic views for someone that does work online is amazing. The fact that you didn't have to boost that shows that people believed in your message and what you stood for. So congratulations on that. I'm really excited to walk alongside you in this journey. And I know the audience is too, because I think sharing information is what we need to do. The more that we know, the better equipped we are. And the Bible does say, if you're a Christian, it does say that my people perish because of lack of knowledge. And I think you're sharing a lot of information here that will help us be better informed in 2027. So we're very excited. Very, very excited for that. I wanted to move on now to the next question. When you look at our public institutions, what is your assessment of their current state and what needs to change to restore trust and effectiveness in these institutions?
The people within these institutions, they've been let down for generations. So it's not a few people's fault or anything like that. It is just the system has broken down for such a long time. I will say you can see some departments that are performing so well, right? And in those agencies and those organizations, you look at who the minister is, you look at the department head, and then you look at the key players in those teams. Well-educated Papua New Guineans, I would say a younger crowd than most of the others. And I think they are people that are experiencing the least opportunities right now. So they feel like it's most incumbent on them to fix the problems while they're in that space. So those departments that are, I would say, trailblazing at the moment, you can see a pattern. It's they've got good leadership, and then they've got the teams that they go the extra mile. You can see it. You walk into an office and you can see people who, in certain departments, they greet people in a courteous way. They have all put effort into how they look. They're dressing well. They're making that effort. They are showing how proud and energetic and how much respect they have for themselves and their job in just the way they look and they operate. You can see that in those offices. And it might also be a reflection of the fact that those offices might be getting better funded than some of the others. Now, you go to other organizations, which some of them I know really well. I know they're not getting the funding they need. There's too many issues with people not doing their job, people not ensuring that contracts are in place. There's places that don't have director at the moment. And so who's running the show if there's no one able to sign on the documents every day and make sure that payments are being made and decisions are being made if no one is on paper accountable for that? People need to get off their backsides and make sure the jobs are filled by the right people and the way that those jobs are given is the right way. I will say it's a total system breakdown, but then you see these shining beacons of hope where as long as you get the right leader and the right management, everything else flows. And so that tells me the system does work. Again, as long as you put the right people into those systems. But yeah, it's not hard to see. You go to the offices and you can feel where it's run down, where it's clearly not being looked after, where people clearly are not feeling empowered or excited to be at their workstations. They are showing you, they are manifesting exactly what's going on behind the scenes. So you know which places are not working. And the places that power through, the ones that we need, these people are angels. Like some of these police officers, some of these emergency services, these nurses and doctors and teachers, I don't know how they do it. I don't know how you go in there and you give people hope and you save lives and you do what you do when you literally don't get given the tools you need or the support you need to do your job. Like that to me is, our whole system is being held up by those kind of people. It's just being held up together by them. If they decide that they can't do it anymore, that they've had enough, and you see it all the time, people going into the private sector, they get to a stage where they're like, I can't do this anymore. I've given my whole life to this. I need to give my life to my family now and to my well-being. And they take the private jobs and all of that. And then again, you see the cracks in our system really show when that person is not there because they've been holding it together the whole time.
You're watching Coffee with Lewa. If you're enjoying this session, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and of course, share this video with your friends and your family. And let's take this conversation to the comments. Let us know your thoughts below. You brought up a very good point. A lot of them are worn out and tired, but they think, who else is going to do this? You shared a post and I reshared it with a health officer. She was delivering a baby in darkness and had a head torch on, and her caption was, no electricity, no water, but here we are doing this tired. And that really stopped me in my tracks. And it's a tough one. It's a tough pill to swallow.
You imagine if she decided she can't do it anymore. You imagine if she did not turn up with that headlight, if she did not turn up. That is the difference. That is the difference. And we are pushing people to their extremes. They are doing it with nothing, and we are not answering their calls that they need just a little bit of help and support. And again, I have to question why that system is so broken, because in our parents' time, we saw a working system. We saw the logistics worked fine. It used to all go through post PNG, I think. We have our government departments. They're building the roads. They're doing all of that. Why has everything become so private business driven? Why does it have to go through all of these different private businesses, all these middlemen, and the services aren't being delivered anymore? Clearly it doesn't work. So why don't we take it all back and go, let's go back to what worked, and let's just really put all that same money into funding those systems that worked, strengthen them, grow them, provide more jobs through those systems. How is it possible that in the 80s and 90s, medicine could reach the furthest point in this country, and now with all our technology and roads and fancy systems and everything, people aren't getting the basics? That makes no sense.
You've also been very active on social media, especially Facebook, and you use your voice to raise awareness and spark conversations. How effective do you think these platforms are in influencing public opinion? We talked about the views and obviously people being hungry for that information. I'm one of those people. But how do you think it is changing and driving policy?
Okay, one, it's raising awareness, 100%. People are talking about things in a much more open way than, I mean, literally nobody before us has ever had this power and this opportunity to actually have their voices heard. We're coming from a time that if you want your voice heard, you'd write a letter to the editor. You'd be lucky if that even got put out there. But everyone grabbed a paper to see, what is somebody saying today? Did anyone say anything about it? Now anybody can have a voice on anything, and I think that's empowering. We do see, I would say, the things that people are passionate about reach the ears of people that can do something about it. We know that they've heard it. Some of them do respond to it, or you hear them talk about something in public, which makes you realize they were reading the comments. They did hear what that person said. So, and you look at people like Culligan Tunda, the fact that even the Prime Minister heard about it, So I do feel like the opportunity to now speak and be heard is stronger than ever before, greater than ever before. But we also see a lot of misinformation, and also people that I think some people enjoy spreading misinformation. So you do see some things that I feel like hinder everything. You could have 10 great results and one stupid thing that went out there and became something, and that one stupid thing has added to fuel a fire where somebody can say, social media is bad, maybe we should be getting rid of social media. And I feel like taking away people's voices is, again, suppression on another level I don't think we should do that. So there's good and bad, but I think it's powerful, and I think it's greater good than it is bad. I mean, the fact is, half the time we hear about things because we've seen it on social media first.
Hmm.
I'd rather know than not know.
Yeah, absolutely. Like with Dr. Molla, Professor Molla, when he went and actually told us the actual scenario of what our doctors were dealing with on ground, that I think moved me to the point of action, right? 7,000 babies being born on the floor. I mean, you would know both my parents are doctors, my late mom and my dad, and they were in public sector. And just like you said, at some point you need to support your family, and they've since come out to private to support our family. So,
And
that's close to my heart.
your parents are so fantastic at what they do at their profession, that them leaving that system. My mum was the same. She was a public school teacher for the majority of her career, and it was only towards the end of that career, maybe the last 10 years, where she was like, I mean, it was that life is just too difficult, and so like raising a family on PNG wages. And most people don't know my dad is white, but when he married my mum, he threw away his Aussie passport, and in that
Wow.
time he took up PNG wages, and he never complained about it. He was like, I'm Papua New Guinean 100%. I'll do everything that a Papua New Guinean does. I'll follow all the same routes and everything to get jobs and work and all of that. And he's really passionate about his job. But so when you're on PNG wages, and from your journalist father and your teacher mother, it's difficult. But back in those days, it was survivable. But it did get to a point where mum was like, no, I need to take another job that pays better, and that was teaching at through IEA schools. But also to see her go from spending her entire life where there was no resources at all, which she would. I mean, her and my dad would buy half the things needed for the classrooms that mum was teaching in. Most of their photocopied books. I don't know if the students know this, but she literally would sit up all night every weekend photocopying all of these things herself, the resources, because you can't get that at the school, so that all her kids have textbooks. They all have the resources they need because she can't get it anywhere else. So to go to a system where, oh, you don't have to do that anymore. Here are the books. Here's the chalk. Here's the whiteboards. Everything is working. The power is on. Yeah, I mean, obviously at some point in your life, you're not young anymore. You want to have a comfortable environment to work in. You can't keep battling the system just to deliver. So, and your dad saved my life. I know I said this how many times, so I love your dad. I love your dad.
Praise the Lord. Sylvia, praise the Lord. And that's why when you and I speak, I just resonate with what you're saying, because you were saying before we came on camera was, we want to leave something for the next generation. And I truly believe that our generation is so equipped to do that. We just haven't been given the in, or even in some places been told, here, have a seat at the table. I know that sounds so cliche, but that leads me to my next question is, for the young people watching, many of whom want to contribute but feel disillusioned, what do you say to them?
I know that we're all different, and we're all growing up in very different environments, whether that's in your home, on your street, in your community, in your village. And so I know it's very easy for me to say, be strong and just do what has to be done. But you really have to. That's literally all we can do. And like I've said over and over again, all of us, no matter what your situation is, we're all being told the same thing. We can't do it. It's impossible. Stay silent. Be quiet. Just get any job and just work at it. And if you see a chance to grab something for yourself, grab it. But I am living proof that you can do things the right way. You can do what you feel is right, despite what people tell you. And that's the biggest thing. Do what's right, not what's easy. And it is a harder road. It is a more difficult road. Nobody ever is going to stop and pat you on the back and say, you're doing a great job. You have to actually feel inside yourself, I'm doing this because I want to do it. It makes me happy. It satisfies my soul. You have to be that cheerleader for yourself. Every new day, every new moment, every new generation, there's always the opportunity to do things differently. And there's always an opportunity to rise to the occasion and change things. Like I've said before, I always worry about the fact that I feel like a lot of these problems, we're inheriting a worse version of them than what our parents dealt with. And, my ambition is to change things so that my daughter, in every facet of her life, doesn't have to deal with things worse than what we are dealing with them. And I look at the slippery slope of how things are gradually getting worse. with our economy, but more so with our social environment. And what our kids' version of worse would be is so much more extreme than we ever had to deal with, that I don't want to do that. So I would say to young people right now, you are doing it harder than anybody else. You don't want the next version of you, the next generation of you, to have even worse than what you've got. So it is incumbent on you to rise to the occasion every single day. And there are everyday opportunities to do something better, to choose to do something differently, and to choose to change this entire situation for all of us. So again, it comes down to every individual making that choice and going for it and doing it. And this next generation, I will just say, you are less likely to ever own a home in your lifetime than any generation before you. You know, we've scraped through. I know a lot of people my age and more that cannot even afford to get into the housing market, despite years of working. And so I would say, I know you've got it harder than anybody else. And you don't have a choice. You have to rise to the occasion every day. You have to shake the tree and do something more with it. And you have to be radical about it, because the passive nature to which everyone is trying to resolve things quietly behind closed doors, quiet conversations without upsetting the status quo. There is absolutely no story in all of history that said change was made without drastic measures. You have to be radical in your approach. You have to speak up. You have to stand out. You have to do everything you can, even when everyone is telling you, you sound ridiculous. Stop talking. Don't do that. Don't do this. If you know it's right, do it.
Well said. Well said. And I really appreciate what you've shared, because you're right. It's time we stand up together and really create the change that we want to see for ourselves and for the future. So thank you for that. Looking ahead, what are your hopes and aspirations for Papua New Guinea's future, especially as we approach 50 years of independence? And how do you see yourself contributing to that journey ahead?
Okay, so honestly speaking, I mean, it's all the same things that our forefathers were hoping for 50 years ago: a more equal and productive society, one that is inclusive of all people and that empowers our people. I would say, if you haven't already read the Constitution, especially the preamble to the Constitution, get a copy. It's readily online, and have a read through it. It is so empowering to read that document and see, again, all of that is the thoughts and ambitions of our parents and our grandparents put into that document of what they thought the future we had laid ahead for us. Look back at that document. It's all about equality. It's all about ownership. It's all about empowering opportunities and putting our people first. One big thing that I took out of campaigning was reminding people that a nation is not its gold or its oil or its products and what it's selling to the world. It is not just the money of it. A nation is about its people. And the Constitution is all about that, empowering our people. It doesn't say, let's empower our business, let's empower our economy, let's empower the house. It doesn't say any of that. It talks about empowering our people. We still own the majority of our land. I'm not sure what other countries on earth can say that. We own it, even without an education, even without resources at your fingertips, even without the internet. You own something that the majority of people on earth cannot claim right to. You own the land you walk on. We own the majority of it for the countries. There is no excuse other than the oppression of the mind to tell us that we can't do anything with that. You can own your land. You can invite the right people in to work with you on that land, and you don't ever have to give up ownership of it. So we still have everything going for us. We just need to free our minds from this idea that we don't have the capability to do it, because we do. We know it's our land. We can do what we want on it. We allow what takes place on it. And you need to hold on to that. And so don't feel disillusioned. Don't feel like I'm not sure what the next 50 years holds. It is literally still in our hands to do something about it. So I am hopeful. I am always optimistic. I always go out of my way to do everything I can in my everyday, whether it's work, whether it's volunteering, whether it's with my friends, whether it's with my family, no matter what it is. I always put everything into not just I'm doing this for the moment, but what are we impacting by doing this? I don't like to spend time on things that I don't feel has a greater impact than it's just monetary, so you got to really focus on your goals and ambitions and work out how does that fit into benefiting me, and how does that benefit my country, and how is that going to benefit my child? Another common conversation I have all the time is people do think, especially in this middle class realm, that if I can just create a good life for my immediate family and my children, that, as long as they're taken care of, everything will be fine. I wish that life was that simple. It is not that simple. Your children and your children's children will have to work alongside and work in society and step outside the gates sometimes. They will always deal with people. Right after campaigns, I met a lot of people that, again, they assume they understand all the problems with every person's life. And they say, if they just worked a bit harder, if they just dressed a little different, if they just spoke a little different, life would be so much easier. And it really is not that simple. And, I have to remind people, like, you can talk about people like that, but you still have to deal with them in your everyday life. And you have to understand, if they are doing so much better in their life, it means that everything that you interact with them is going to be so much better. So this idea of putting ourselves in a little bubble and saying that as long as I just take care of myself, I'll be okay, it doesn't work. Not in a functioning democratic society, it does not work. We are all linked in one way or another. So I would say also make your ambitions bigger than self. And I always remind people, if you're ever lost, serve somebody else. So volunteer, do something to remind yourself what's going on outside of your little bubble, and you'll realize that there is still so much that needs doing, and you really do have everything you need to impact change in your hands, in your mind, in your voice. So use it.
I'm really motivated by what you just shared, and I think the entire audience will be too. Thank you, because you brought hope into this space that we can look ahead and look forward, and we should work together. And I love what you said. If you feel lost, look outside your bubble and look to serve others. That is so powerful. Thank you so much, Sylvia. I really appreciate your time. I know you're busy. Thank you for being here with us today. And I pray God blesses you. And we will be following you very closely along in your election campaign come 2027. And all of Sylvia's links will be down below. So go ahead and follow her there and follow her journey. And remember, together we can make change. So
Thank you so much, and good luck with the rest of the show. I've seen a couple of episodes already. I love it. It's wonderful. Thank you.
Sylvia, thank you for your courage, your advocacy, and your willingness to speak the truth, even when it's not easy. It's been an absolute pleasure having you here on Coffee with Lewa. And to our viewers, everyone watching, if this conversation resonated with you, please don't forget to like the video, subscribe to our channel, and share it with your family and friends, because this helps us to bring more strong voices to the table. And of course, now it's your turn. Let's take the conversation to the comments. Share your thoughts with us. We're going to read every single one. And until next time, thank you for joining us. Take care, and we'll see you on the next one on Coffee with Lewa.